Tonight I'm bringing you Ajmal's Purely Orient Tonka and Purely Orient Santal, two members of what I consider to be what is slowly becoming one of my favorite lines in all of perfumery. I'm so excited for this fragrance review, but at the same time, I'm a little bit sad, and we're going to get into it in this video, so let's get to it. Welcome back, guys. Welcome back. So I'm going to be going over two of my favorite members of Ajmal's Purely Orient line. You know, I haven't had a whole ton of experience with this fragrance line, but I have now had about half a year's worth of experience in total with it. And I have to say, even with such little exposure, even with such little overall experience in the grand scheme of things, I can honestly say this is one of the best fragrance lines I've ever come across in all of perfumery. I find the offerings are so unique. The ingredients that are being used in each offering are highlighted, they're amplified. So for example, in Tonka, we get a lot of Tonka. In incense, we get a lot of incense. In Kuya, we get a lot of leather. So, you know, they make great use of these kind of base ingredients and shape the rest of the fragrance around those. And they do it in such a way that is just non-existent in Western designer perfumery. Ajmal's Purely Orient line is just honestly some of the best perfumery on the planet as far as I'm concerned. And tonight I'm going over my two favorites, Tonka and Santal. Before I get into the actual fragrances here, I'd just like to briefly go over the presentation. The boxes of the Purely Orient line are so solid, literally and, you know, figuratively. These things feel like bricks. They are so solid. It feels honestly like they're made of wood, and they're covered with like rubberized, super smooth exteriors. Very, very smooth, solid. They each come with an inner golden box that's made of cardboard or maybe wood, maybe plastic. Again, with that kind of rubberized, smooth finish. Love, love, love. And the base, kind of like the pedestal, equally rock solid. These are just some of the nicest cologne boxes I've ever found in my scent journey thus far. So first of all, I'm going to go over Santal here. Really beautiful, solid cube bottle here. Heavy cap comes off like this. I really like how etched around the rim of this atomizer at the bottom, you have the name of the fragrance. I think these bottles are so sharp looking. Anyway, the most important part is the scent itself. So in Santal, in the beginning, I get some saffron, nutmeg, and oud. In the mid, it's gurgeon balsam and sandalwood. And in the dry down, I get leather, olibanum, and amber. So in the opening, we get two very prominent aspects. Number one is going to be the oud. Now, with a fragrance like Santal, you might be thinking sandalwood, and that does come later, but at the beginning, oh man, there's a very loud animalic oud note in this. Unexpectedly, I guess. I don't know. I'm not complaining. I love it. It's just not what I was expecting. The oud in this, absolutely real oud, and it smells like, it's kind of like the fermented type. I want to say, I don't know, maybe a little cheesy type of oud. It's not 100% barnyardy or fecal or anything like that, but it's pungent and it's animalic in kind of a, I don't know, ambergris way almost. There's kind of like a sweaty, very animalic, deep kind of dirtiness to it that's very reminiscent to me of certain types of Indian style oud. But yeah, we get a lot of that in the beginning. And there's also some spices. So there's some saffron and a little bit of nutmeg. Mostly I get saffron. It's going to add a dry kind of sweetness, maybe almost a leathery characteristic to the opening of this fragrance along with that oud. Then in the mid, I get some gurgeon balsam, which is kind of like a light woodiness. There's a bit of an aromatic flavor to it. Fresh, woody, musky on the lighter side of things. It might have a slight bit of spice to it itself as well. But then we get the sandalwood. Now the sandalwood in this, to me, smells more so like the Mysore variety as opposed to the Australian variety. And I say that because the sandalwood in this one smells like a very high quality Mysore sandalwood. It smells milky, it's creamy, it's quite woody, but it's soft, it's almost silky, it's a little bit musky, it's lactonic, it's smooth. It is exactly what Mysore sandalwood is supposed to smell like. Maybe there's even like a bit of a chalky, almost powderiness to it. Absolutely stunning use of sandalwood here. And honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if it was real Mysore sandalwood, because Ajmal being Ajmal, they always use a lot of natural ingredients, at least in their higher end offerings. In the dry down, we get leather, olibanum, and a little bit of amber. The leather here is a little bit animalic. It's dark. It's very Oriental style leather. It kind of reminds me a little bit of Black Incense Malaki by Chopard. So it's dark. It's got that. There's a smoothness, yes, but it's a little bit on the kind of dark, oily, dirty side as well, if you know what I mean, especially paired with that olibanum, which is going to give it a resinous, incensey feel. I don't really get much smoke out of the incense, out of the olibanum in this. Like I said, it's more resinous, but I suppose in the deep background, there is a little bit of like a burnt wood quality, but definitely more on the resinous side of the olibanum. And the amber is also there in very small amounts, just to add its soft kind of benzoinic vanillic touch to this composition. Not an overly ambery fragrance at all, but there is a little bit of amber there in the dry down. So, wow, super impressive fragrance this, Santal from the Purely Orient line. This fragrance opens up different than it dries down. This is a very complex scent, and it has distinct developmental phases. So yeah, animalic oud in the opening here with that spice. But as it goes drying down, we get a lot of that creamy, soft sandalwood, and definitely a dark, bold kind of leather thing going on in the bottom. Very interesting. Very, very, very interesting Santal. I will say, though, that animalic oud does disappear for me after about half an hour, maybe 35, 40 minutes. So yeah, if you feel shocked or intimidated by that initial opening, it is a little bit on that intimidating side, but it does not last. After, like I said, 35, 40 minutes, it does disappear and it dries down into a much smoother composition. Although, like I said, still with that leather, that oriental dark leather in the dry down, stupendous fragrance. But to me, I feel like the main characteristics of this fragrance are going to be the sandalwood and the leather, and maybe a little bit of olibanum in the bottom here. The sandalwood, like I said, super good quality. I don't know for certain if it's real Mysore sandalwood, but it smells like it. And regardless of whether it's real or it's laboratory synthesized, this smells of the utmost quality. And honestly, despite its strong opening, I consider this to be a pretty versatile fragrance. I wouldn't really want to wear this in like the high heat. Maybe I would avoid wearing it to work. But it's not like super daring. It's not over the top. It's definitely not offensive. It's dark and it's bold, but it's done in such a way that it's very balanced, right? It's very balanced. It's complex at the same time, and it's good quality. There's never any sort of like piercing quality about this. It doesn't like invade your nostrils or anything like that. So despite its pretty crazy opening, which doesn't last, again, by the way, I consider this to be, I don't know, probably like a 7 or 8 out of 10 on the versatility scale. I have received compliments on this. My girlfriend likes it, for example. A lot of people seem to like this one, but some people may not. So I don't know, just take that into consideration, especially if you're going to go and buy this, because generally, people around you in public, when they catch whiffs of your fragrance, they tend to like it. It's more so about the wearer. If the wearer does not like it, that's the main consideration, right? So anyway, I'll leave it at that. Despite its note profile, it is not the strongest fragrance out there. In fact, it's not really that strong. I get moderate performance out of this. The total longevity on my skin is about 6 hours, maybe more, maybe less, depending on the day. Doesn't really project that crazily. I get less than an arm's length for the first hour. Not a beast mode scent. It's not one of those that's going to fill a room at all. It's not one of those scents that's going to invade other people's space. Stupendous fragrance. This is one of the greatest top three sandalwood fragrances I've ever smelled. It is just stunning. It is amazing quality. This is one you want to check out if you're a sandalwood fan. Next one is going to be Tonka from the same line. Now, several months ago now, I recorded a first impressions video, I feel like my first impression was not completely accurate. That happens sometimes. I had not had enough time to study this. So here's my full-length review, my in-depth, accurate review, right? So in the beginning of this, I get some oud, cinnamon, and sage. In the mid, I get some amber and tobacco. And in the dry down, I get tonka bean, olibanum, and cashmere wood. So yeah, the opening, very strong, very animalic, very fermented style oud. It's the same type of oud that Santal has. It's stronger in Tonka. So if you're not a fan of animalic openings, you're probably not going to enjoy this one, because this stuff is very strong. The oud, especially in that opening, it's intense. But there is a little bit of earthy, kind of dry, dusty cinnamon with a little bit of warmth in the beginning. And there's definitely a woody, herbal, sage accord there as well. It's an interesting fragrance opening. One of the most unique I've ever come across in my entire perfume journey thus far. Never smelled an opening like this one here, with that oud, the oud being the most dominant note, and the cinnamon and the sage to back it up. Just purely unique. It's absolutely stunning and very good quality, might I add. So after the opening stages, this stuff starts to really sweeten up. Just like in Santal, that oud disappears after like maybe 30 minutes to 45 minutes, let's say. And we get a lot of amber, so we get some vanillic, benzoinic, maybe kind of dusty, sweet amber in the mid. And tobacco. There's a little bit of tobacco. It's not a smoky tobacco. It smells like kind of like a cigar. I don't think the tobacco is extremely prominent, but it is there. And it's very nice. It adds a nice kind of like earthy, rich, dark sweetness mixed with that amber in the mid here. And in the dry down, it gets even sweeter because of that tonka bean. The tonka bean, very prominent in the dry down. Actually, it becomes the most dominant note, dominates everything else eventually. But yeah, the tonka bean in this one, very fruity, very vanillic, but it has that nutty creaminess to it as well. It doesn't really go like syrupy like a lot of time vanilla does. No, it goes more so into a nutty, creamy direction that prevents it from being like really cloying, for example. It's actually quite smooth, but definitely on the sweeter side, especially in the dry down here. There's also some olibanum, which is going to lend that resinous, incensey quality. But this time, the olibanum is smoky. It definitely adds a smoky characteristic to the dry down of this, in the kind of burnt wood style, which reminds me of like bahur. So what I mean by that is it's woody. It's kind of smoky, like a smoky burnt wood, along with those kind of resinous, incensey characteristics. Finally, there's a smooth, silky cashmere wood accord in the dry down of this. Very pleasant, soft, woody. It's got a softness, it's got a muskiness, it's very diffuse, which means it kind of like makes itself project a lot, but in a very airy kind of way. Almost like a silk or maybe a wool covering to cover the rest of this fragrance here. Very, very, very nice. It is absolutely stupendous, this fragrance. But yeah, again, starts off very heavy, very animalic. But that does go away, and it changes into a sweet, creamy tonka bean composition. The main notes, like the most prominent features of this to me, are definitely going to be the oud and the tonka bean. But you know, all those other notes do play their parts. They are noticeable, and they're very important to the composition of this fragrance. But yeah, man, this is hands down the best tonka bean fragrance I've ever smelled. And to be completely honest, tonka bean was never really one of my favorite notes before I had experienced this fragrance. But yeah, this fragrance might just be kind of changing my mind, might be influencing me into trying more tonka bean fragrances. Although, honestly, I have tried a lot of them. That's how I know that I don't really like tonka bean. It's the way that it's done in this fragrance. Man, if you're a tonka fan, you gotta check this out. Let me rephrase that. If you're a tonka fan and you also like heavily animalic oriental style fragrances, try this one out. It is a masterpiece. It's a masterwork of the tonka bean note, and it's incorporated into this mixture here in a way that I have never smelled before. Super unique fragrance. I can't recommend this enough if you're a fan of those darker style fragrances, but with a heavy, very apparent tonka bean. I would say this is a little bit less versatile than Santal, although, you know, after the first 45 minutes or so, half an hour, 45 minutes, after that oud disappears, it does become quite smooth and quite likable, quite appealing. A lot of compliments I've received on this one, although admittedly, I have shown this to people and they've tried it when they first spray this on their skin. They're totally taken aback by that oud. So keep that in mind, especially if you yourself don't like oud. I would not recommend this one. But like I said, again, out in public, when people catch wafts of the smell, if you're passing by, people tend to generally really like it. And that's, you know, that goes for most fragrances out there, even some of the most animalic ones. Yeah, it's more so up to the wearer. If you're not going to be a fan of these notes, then don't wear it. If you don't want to be smelling this off your skin all day, don't pick it up, because that's the next thing. Beast mode fragrance here, absolute beast mode. Stuff lasts 14, 15, 16 hours total on my skin before it becomes a skin scent. And the projection is massive, massive for at least the first hour and a half, maybe 2 hours. I'm like beyond an arm's length. Room filler here. This is a strong one. Tonka. So yeah, that's what I have to say about this masterwork of the Tonka Bean notes. If you're a fan of that note, you cannot miss out on this one. So all in all, these two fragrances are not worlds apart. They both open up with that same animalic oud, but this one here, Santal, goes off into a more woody, kind of silky smooth direction, leathery as well in the dry down, while Tonka goes from being very, very strong and animalic in the beginning to a deeply sweet, creamy, but still not cloying composition with a little bit of that smoky olibanum in the dry down. So if you're looking for smoothness, I recommend Santal. And if you're looking to be bold and just make a statement, definitely Tonka. But these both are absolute masterpieces of their respective main notes. Awesome sandalwood fragrance, one of the best I've ever smelled, and same goes for Tonka. It's just the way the Tonka is incorporated in this is otherworldly. It's absolutely amazing. Unfortunately, now we have to talk about the sad part of this review. Now, Ajmal has officially discontinued this line, and apparently they did so a couple of years ago now. But just before I go any further, these two fragrances are still available in North America right now on FragranceNet, but very limited quantity. Right now, as of the recording of this video, FragranceNet does have these in stock, but that could change by the time I release this, either tomorrow or Friday. Sorry guys, I have made a post on my YouTube channel, and so yeah, I put it out there. FragranceNet has these. There's a clearance sale right now, really good price. So if you are interested, don't hesitate. If you're in North America, you want to be going to FragranceNet right now to try to pick these up. But for my European audience and people in other parts of the world, you know, even though these are discontinued, I see them quite frequently on discount sites. Like, these are still, you know, available on a lot of different websites in Europe and other parts of the world. So it seems like we don't have as much to worry about here as the people in North America do. Anyway, at least that's right now, but that could change too as well. Why, Ajmal? Why did you discontinue this line of fragrances? Easily one of the best lines ever in all of perfumery. I mean, yeah, that's a bold statement to make, but this Purely Orient line, such an amazing line. The quality, unrivaled. The strength, at least the strength of most of them, very good. They all smell very natural. There's none of that synthetic screechiness that a lot of times you can get, even in a lot of niche fragrances. That is non-existent in this line, in this Purely Orient line. They're just so good, and I don't understand why Ajmal would discontinue this line. I have my theories. I mean, most of these releases were released back in 2019 at the beginning of the pandemic. And so I'm thinking, like, is this a matter of like a supply chain interruption? Ajmal uses a lot of natural ingredients. You know, were they no longer to obtain these products, these natural products at a profitable price? I don't know what happened. The fact that Ajmal uses, like I said, a lot of natural ingredients, it's not the same as a European, you know, designer brand being able to mix up a bunch of chemicals in a factory in Europe or something. Not the same thing. But I don't know. At this point, that's just speculation. I don't know. I don't know if it's the fact that these fragrances are too challenging for Western noses, like the sales weren't good enough, but like for what reason? I have a feeling that, you know, the openings of a lot of these fragrances are challenging. Maybe they're just not, you know, appealing enough for the Western market. I don't know. But what's the reason, Ajmal? I mean, you got some of the best perfumes in all of perfumery, in my opinion, of this line, the Purely Orient line. Doesn't make sense to me. I mean, they're just such good quality. It's heartbreaking to me that they're discontinued. And it's even more heartbreaking, or frustrating, I think is a better word, that a lot of people, especially in the West, they associate Ajmal with cheap clones. And although Ajmal does manufacture some of those, and those tend to be the ones that are more marketed or more widely available or more talked about in the West, those cheap clones, not fair, not fair. Ajmal makes some of the best perfumes ever. It's just a matter of digging a little bit deeper and doing your research. But Ajmal offers some of the best perfumes on the planet as far as I'm concerned. And I've just introduced 2 of those to you here. So I don't know, maybe the fact that this is discontinued, maybe the sales were low because a lot of people just associate Ajmal with cheap, low quality perfumes, and they didn't even want to give these a chance. I don't know. I don't know what the reason is. But anyway, that's where the rant ends for today, guys. Leave it in the comments below. Do you know this line? Are you familiar with the offerings? Do you like them? What's your opinion? Does anybody actually know why Ajmal discontinued this? I'm dying to find out the actual reason. Ajmal won't answer me. I've tried to contact them. Anyway, guys, like I said, if you are interested in these and you're in North America, I would go to fragrancenet.com like right now, like as soon as you see this, and see if they're still available, because they will become very rare collector's items very soon. And yeah, just going to leave it there, guys. Amazing offerings from Ajmal, Tonka, Purely Orient, and Santal, Purely Orient. Have a good one. Until next time, keep it real.